So now that you understand how to, purpose of a null object and pivot points, let's get up to setting this file now. Um, I've also added this hint here to help you see what I'm clicking or shortcuts I'm using, just in case. All right. So for Aramanda, biggest Aramanda is fine. I think I'll leave Aramanda alone because if any animation is going to happen to it. Okay, so first off, I'm going to do, let me first do a general null. So change my tool. I'm holding shift so that it scales squarely. If you press, oh, if you're on a null, if you're on a layer in After Effects, if you press enter, it allows you to rename the file. You can also just right click and rename, what is that thing? You can also see, so if you press return or enter, it's a shortcut. So I use shortcuts a lot to save you a lot of time in life. So again, it's important that you label any single thing you are using in your file. Like label your layers, so that you especially see, like I'm working with here, even as simplified as now, this is a very simple file in most cases. This is like 22 layers. I need to be able to look at it, a layer, and know exactly what that layer is about. All right. Some of you just do layer one, layer 75. It's not giving professional. So Amanda is here. That's fine. I think what I can do is I will first link everything to the all. So I'm linking everything to all now. So with this, now that I've linked everything to all, I can literally go to composition settings and then scale down. So I've done the math to still maintain this my 4:5 ratio. All right, so it will bring me to 1920 by 2400. Be sure that, so let me undo this. Let me undo this to do this one more time. Composition settings. So you need, when you want to, I mean, I think I should even just keep this locked actually, because I'm not trying to change aspect ratio. Yeah, so it's good to just keep this locked. So if you just, because the Photoshop file was already done in the ratio I want, so just keep it locked. 1920. This one converts to what I need it to be. Let me make this 8 seconds. So just in case, this is frames. So when you see base 30, it means we're working on 30 frames per second. All right. I think I want to keep this on 24 because I want my work to feel very. You know what? Let me even do something very. I'll put it on 12. So the reason I'm putting it on 12, I want my work to feel. I want the work to feel very animated. I don't want it to feel too smooth. Well, let me just do 24. Let me respect myself. Let me respect myself and do it on 30. I'll do that experiment and I'm trying to export and see what it does. But ideally, I want it to feel very animated, not too smooth. But anyway, so this last number, just in case you didn't know what the duration is, this last number basically is frames. So in this case, 30 frames make 1 second. So this next number is seconds. This next number is minutes. This one hour. You get the gist. So boom, I've done. So for that frame rate thing, 30 is always a good place to work. In many cases, you work in 30 if it's motion graphics. So if you want to make it feel more animated and stylized, like 2D animation, that's where you reduce the frame rate a bit. But I'm not trying to do that right now. So the next thing I want to do is scale down. So you see, because we attached everything to this null object, now I can just scale it down. I didn't change the position. I left it in the center. So this is like a master null. All right. In fact, let me rename it accordingly. Master null. So this is the one that I can use to move everything at the same time if I want. So Now that I have that, next thing I'm going to be doing now is creating more null objects to support or help me move things that are supposed to be in batch. And I'm also going to be color coding them. So for example, biggest Christian party, um, I'll put this in sandstone. So you see, this is all it represents. But let me show you why it's important. So imagine you wanted to scale. You see, it's scaling where? So I need a null object so that I can scale the whole thing together. So I'll call this biggest Christian party. So I know it's a null object, and I'm also going to, let's see, so let me also color this sandstone. So but I need to, so let's slow down, right? So okay, we don't need to slow down yet. I've not made that mistake yet. So now I've added the null object, but as you can see, when you add a null, it pops up in the center directly, right? So what you want to do is move the null and put the pivot point. So when you add a null, by default, the pivot point is usually to the top left corner. So you want to put that pivot point wherever you want your pivot point for that whole section of item that will attach should be. So now that I have that, I'm going to now connect all these biggest Christian everything to this node. So just in case you see this, do not panic. This just means that your caps lock is on, and times you refresh disabled, release caps lock to refresh you. So just turn off your caps lock and you'll be fine. So basically, I'm not going to explain this again. I'm going to do the same process now for the rest of the work. So here, I can click on this percent thing here to give me full screen. So cocky girl, this girl is fine. But however, I think herself, tickets, ticket link, sponsors area. So this is supposed to be for the sponsors. So this whole set, I'm going to right click now. I'm going to label them, color them red. So basically, you see all these items ideally are together. So they are going to need a null on their own. So I will call this lower third. So remember, when you add a new null, it defaults to the center. You need to bring it to exactly where you want it to be. So I just put it at the bottom there. And so now, turn off my caps lock. So just in case you were wondering, you've forgotten the lesson, you see what we can do now, right? So that's the bad. So now I have this. So I have this cap girl, University of Ibadan, back of the cap girl fingers. So I can just select this. Okay, yeah, so that's everything I want. Let me put this in yellow. I need a null object for this. I want to put it at the bottom of that whole school. I'm also going to change it to yellow. I label it Null Uni Badon and Cap Girl. So the whole idea is at first glance, I need to immediately know what I'm looking at. So file setup is a very important process. If you do this thing now, it saves you a lot of time moving forward. So a lot of times people want to cut corners so they can move fast. Meanwhile, you're going to create more problems for yourself that will delay you when you cut corners. So floodlight is fine. Civic center is fine. So now this is this guy's leg. Okay, the guy leg, the tower, the guy body, then that's the traffic light to the back. So I'm going to color this. Let's just color this yellow. I need a null object for owner. I need a null object for them as well. So this null object now is basically for this whole civic towers and board. So this one it might have several null objects, or it might not, depending on what I'm trying to do. But let's just go first. Null civic tower and guy. Also change this to yellow. So the reason is because, I want to be able to have this movement. I want to be able to bring all of them in together. So just in case you're not clear why we're doing this, is so that I can animate. So if I want all of them to come in now as one object, I'll just animate this null and everybody will come in. Everything that's connected to that null comes in to do what it's supposed to do. And this null has also been prioritized to favor this building because this building is the anchor point. Now, however, for the guy, what I'm going to do now with this leg is I'm going to parent this leg to the guy's body, right? And I'm also going to, okay, so before I proceed with the next thing I'm trying to do, so now I've set up all the nulls I think I'm going to need for this project. And there's nothing that says, oh, if you go forward and you think you need a null, you cannot add it, like feel free. But this is just me trying to set up. So there's like a setup phase, all right? So that from here on now, so the way I think about my process is I batch operations together. So what I mean is when I'm setting up my Photoshop file, I'm setting up my Photoshop file. When I'm importing my Photoshop file, I'm importing my Photoshop file. When I'm setting up the null objects for my assets, I'm setting all the null objects at the same time so that my brain is focused on one function. It's like factory work, right? When I'm setting up pivot points, which is the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to be setting up pivot points for each asset so that the smaller things. I already did that when I was setting up these null objects, but now there are some individual things I might need to set pivot points for before proceeding. So that's what I want to do now. So obvious case in point for the cap girl